So we will start this conversation by first of all trying to understand why is the United States Agency of International Development. When at the end of the First World War, the United States decided that they were going to invest a lot of money into helping the rebuilding of countries especially in Europe, those countries that were affected by the war, whose infrastructures have been destroyed. So it was in this light that aid was created. The American International Development was created on then U.S. President Eisenhower to support the whole rebuilding effort. But in 1961, when President John Kennedy became president of the U.S., he decided, well, I want to bring all these under one umbrella so that aid is not moving. We can synchronize how aid is being moved out of the U.S. to for first it was for development, but now President Kennedy's idea was that this is not only going to be for development. We're going to use it as humanitarian aid. We're going to be what we call soft diplomacy, or the carrot part of diplomacy. So therefore, in 1961, in September 1961, U.S. law were put into place, and the United States Agency of International Development was with the idea that this agency was going to work as the soft diplomatic side of the U.S. government. And along the line, this agency have actually done a lot of great things. It's been polio vaccine around the world, HIV vaccine around the world, and other structures. Unfortunately, a couple of weeks ago, the current administration of the United States of America decided that we are going to bring this to an end, that we can no longer be supporting our projects outside of the U.S. And therefore, each of us woke up one morning to the news that the United States Agency of International Development was going to close. And then was sent, in fact, the website was brought down the same day. So the idea behind my conversation with you, the news that going around, stories and how it is. First of all, we have learned from the Liberian government, from the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Augustin Gafwan, that the USAID direct project to Liberia is about $51 million. So the first big thing we had to look at is that, okay, $51 million. Is that a lot of money? Yes, it sounds like a lot of money, but honestly, it's not that huge sum of money. But when you see the $51 million and start to go down the line, projects line by line, precept by precept, then you come to understand how is it going to impact that. Impact Liberia and Liberians, and how we're going to overcome this situation we are faced with. So I have a video first, because it's only Liberia impacted. I have a video first that from the former president of Kenya. I found it very powerful when he made a statement. And I would like to start, if my students have that, from Uhuru Kenyatta. He was invited to a conference, and he had to have a conversation around the USAID. So if the studio can kindly show the video of Uhuru Kenyatta, the president of Kenya, making his remarks on USAID.
Dr. George, can you continue a little bit? The video is not playing. Let me. I'll try to re-cue it later. Okay.
Okay. I'll see. Mean that the video is not coming up. I do apologize for that. But we're here necessary. I'll try to put this up to us as African to think about it. That look, this is not African money. This is U.S. government money. This is not African taxpayer money. And every one of us know every government is put in place on a manifesto. And that manifesto is what determines the direction of that government. And most especially, the manifesto is written towards the local audience and not international audience. So when you look at this conversation from Uhuru Kenyatta, what he's trying to tell us that, look, none of us as African pay taxes to the US government. None of us can determine what the government, when the elections was being held and campaign was going on, the campaign was to a particular audience, the US audience. So these are promises being made. So instead of us sitting in shock or sitting in awe and thinking, oh, what is going to happen next, and become frustrated, Uhuru Kenyatta was encouraging us as Africans to start looking within. And that's what many of us have to do as expert people who are in different fields. When we see things happening in our community, in our society, we have to step back and think. For so long, I believe we as Africans, and maybe at a level we as Liberians, has always been sitting out looking for a handout from other people. We plan our life on what other people want to give us. So we plan our day-to-day activities as to who's going to put something in our pocket. And, my hustle today, who office you're going to visit. And so this pullback of fund is just telling us that, look, you are human beings, you have the mind, you have the brain, you have the ability to excel and to succeed. What are you going to do with this? Now, in the development of history, there is a theory called adversity theory of civilization, rather. There's a theory called adversity theory. And this theory says that whenever man finds himself in a situation of adversity, humankind had the ability to summon the courage to go over adversity. And in that time, inventions are formed, inventions are made. And we can take Liberia, for example. Many of you know during the Civil War, we lost the railroad tracks, the trains that needed to leave from Lamco to Buchanan. But there were some young gentlemen who started a railroad system. They invented their own way of moving goods and services from Nema to Grand Bassa on that railway. Many of us watched the video and we saw that. That's what the theory is all about. When you're in a situation where you feel that everything is coming to an end, we have the mind as human beings to come up with new ideas, new thoughts, new elements to develop what we want to do and where we want to go to. I think we have the video now, so we can, to you on radio, you can listen to it. Those of you who are watching on Facebook and YouTube can watch this from Uhuru Kenyatta, the former president of Kenya.
Dr. George, I'm going to join you there. Let's just continue the dialogue. We don't have sound coming out. But again, we want to apologize to our viewers. We want to apologize to everyone, especially those listening to us on 87.9 Freedom FM in Monrovia. I just got word back from the studio. They got sound now, so at least they can hear us live. But unfortunately, we are not able to play the video for you. So, Mr. George, I think you should definitely join me back on the stream and let us get the video off the screen. Let's keep this dialogue going.
Jerry, the video was playing. The video was playing when you came in, so I don't know.
It's okay. Let's just remove the video, guys. Let's just go with the show. So, Mr. George, let's continue the conversation here. I think you have done a good job to give us this historical background on how this project came into play and how you said actually the establishment and the reason for it. And I think I want to just gonna ask you one question with regards to that. And that question is, I think as a people, we just got to a place where we felt like, look, we got too comfortable. We got too comfortable, in my opinion, because if for some reason, as a nonprofit, if somebody gave you and said, Mr. George, look, you just undertook something. I don't want to put it out there, but you just undertook something and people gave you money. You got a meeting today that you're going to have that meeting and you're going to be reporting to the committee. Now, if you got too comfortable as an organization and you think this money will just keep coming, so you don't even budget for yourself and take care of your own personal income, then you find yourself in a situation. I kind of feel like this is where Africa is right now, not just Africa, but maybe other South American countries as well. They just got too comfortable with receiving this handout, and the governments of those countries have not put into place things that they can do without that income. And so because of that, now everybody's scrambling and say, look, what are we going to do? How are we going to deal with this? How are we going to actually do this? And $50 million is a big money for a country like Liberia. So where do we go from here?
Yeah, so that's why we're building close to that, because where you go from here, you have $51 million out, and you have to think about where that $51 million is coming from and how to pump and what can we do. So when you look at it, let's see some of the projects that would use this $50 million fund. The biggest chunk of money is going to transforming education system for teachers and students in Liberia. That project was updated in February 2025. That project has an estimated amount of $11,225,402. So in the first place, now we see that major funding may be pulled out of is the education, the Liberian educational system. That's $11,225,402. The transforming the education system for teachers and students in Liberia. And now, we now have to look at to understand that, first of all, our government does not fund education a lot. We are not even meeting our quota according to according to the policy for West Africa and the policy of Africa, how much quota of government revenue is supposed to go into education. And now we're losing 11 million in that. The second place a big chunk of money is coming from that we may be losing is agribusiness, incubator, and development activity, for which a project was updated in January 2024 for $7,767,445. So two key sectors is being affected. One, education is being hit hard. Two, now we have two we have is health. Now there's an organization in Liberia called LEAD, and that organization funding was updated in February for $3,196,945. Minister Gafwan, in his interview on BBC on Voice of America, alluded to this project. LEAD is the local empowerment and for accountability and decentralization. So that organization, just in February, their project was updated by USAID for over $3.1 million. Food security, not only were they having agribusiness incubators, food security, for example, was also updated in January. Yeah, in January 2025, they updated food security, nutritional and resilience activities in Liberia. That's about $5 million. And I think that's where the money go for school feeding, for school feeding.
So, Dr. John, I want to go back, because I mean, all of the sectors that you just named, I mean, the primary one there, in my opinion, they are all prime areas. But let me just look at the education sector, and I really want to play the devil's advocate here, because I was talking to a friend in Liberia, and he said, you guys cut the funding. Now you're going to throw our whole system back. You're going to throw out, putting me there like a part of the people government. I'm not part of the people government. But he said, you guys, so our whole system is going to be all upside down. My question to this person, and this person is a former government official. He was in the CDC government. My question to the person was, this money has been coming over since the inception of this particular program. This money has been coming over. And the education sector, we have now seen where our illiteracy rate dropped to maybe 5% or 10% as a result of all this funding that was coming to the country. So how can you now attribute the illiteracy rate is going to go up now because we don't have funding to actually take care of this particular area, and the agribusiness is going to go downhill because we don't have funding to take care of this, and the health sector? When you look at the health sector and you look at the education sector, I'm sorry, but those are two sectors that are still struggling. Just this week alone, I kid you not, if I had the video here, I can play it. There was someone who was dying. They called the ambulance show up. They don't have, I mean, they're asking the people to actually go ahead and put fuel in the ambulance before they can transport this person to the hospital. You go to the hospital is asking you that, oh, the generator doesn't have fuel, so we have to do surgery. You got to pay for the fuel to get in the generator before we start the procedure. Those sectors were already struggling. So can this really be a realistic thing? If you want to focus just on education for a matter and just say, how can you attribute any of this to that?
First of all, when I was in Monroe recently, I can't remember the name, but there's a brilliant librarian professor of education. I think he has his own school. He made a brilliant section, and I thought about it as an educator for a while, and I actually agree with him. So for the development of education, you have to, we had how many years? 13 years of civil war, 1989 to 2005. We had 2 years of civil war, and the education system was, how they call it. Then we elected President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, and she started a new foundation. It's going to take about 18 years for those kids, you know, who started the implementation. So it's a straight 18 years of development for those children who started the implementation. So most of those children now that started in 2005 of that 2000, let's say 2007, 2008 with the Eden program, most of them now are graduating from high school. Perhaps I think this year should be the first graduation. So that's when we can now see the outcome. This year, national examination will definitely show to us whether the system improved or not, because these kids who have gone through these times of stabilization, going through the whole process of the educational system, Liberia, are graduating from high school. So that's where the status will start from, how the outcome that we can say, how the output they gave us this year will tell us how this program is effective. So for education, it takes a long time for it to yield rewards and benefit. But I agree with you, yes. When someone is giving you money, you also have to plan ahead of time. Plan for suppose this funding comes to an end. Where are we going to source funding from? Are these projects, are they making the impact they are supposed to make? And I think where Rwanda got one Liberia, because if you look at Rwanda, every development project that came to the country, they determine where that project should go, the goal of that project, and how the implementation process, they were very much involved from beginning to end. But in Liberia, our government, there's a assistant minister in the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning who works with nonprofit organizations, but I'm not too sure that bureau is effectively involved in the projects from the beginning to an end to see, okay, you say you're going to educate XY students. We don't need it in Monserrato County. We need it in Babudu County in their village here. Let me follow you in that village to see whether you build a school. Everything was done according to that. We don't have that. So most of the money generated for these projects go into what became a big conversation in international development in the 2000s. Most of the money go to overhead costs. So if the U.S. government is giving the Liberian education system $11 million, there's a possibility that only $5 million will reach Liberia. 6 of that 11 million may stay in Washington, D.C. For example, one of the projects that Elon Musk came up on, the one about revenue, the tax system. Those consultants, if you check it, majority of them were not Liberian consultants. They were American consultants sitting here in Washington, D.C., who lobbied for that. And they were using that amount of money to help our tax system, but they were paying themselves. They were employing Americans into those jobs and perhaps giving Liberians, getting few Liberians on the ground, maybe a lawyer and one other consultant on the ground working with them in order for them to have the ground report. So, but yes, and that's where the next part of the conversation have to come up to. We have to take control of our country. And that's why I love what Uhuru Kenyatta said. And one of the big things, unfortunately, we cannot share it, but it was mind-boggling to me when I listened to Ngozi Iweala, the Director General of the World Trade Organization, when she stated to us that right now on this continent, we have $200 billion. Are you listening to the tip? Is just we Africans, we have $200 billion in pension funds for Nigeria, South Africa, Egypt, and other countries. $200 billion. And she was asking, why can't we start tapping in those money? Why can't we now sit as African country and say, look, we have all this money sitting here. How can we help develop our sectors? How can we help develop other areas? And also this week, Wema Kamara was on the Spoon Talk, and he also alluded to these kind of things. They are funny available in Africa, but we have those money sitting in European banks, sitting in American banks. They have been there for a while, and there's now time for our government, again, not to say, because it's emergency right now we're thinking about, not to say it should become a dependent, we should become dependent on going to borrow money from other people. But the fact is that we as Africans, we have different things that work. When I live in Ghana, Mr. Sherry, Social Security funds were building projects all over Accra. If anybody who have been to Ghana, you hear about SNIT housing. Every SNIT estate is a Social Security estate. So we have like Social Security in Liberia, and maybe they're doing this, maybe they are not doing it, maybe they have not told us. Every time I pay my Social Security funds, where is that money going to? Is it being reinvested? Or is it just sitting there? Is it being used that, as I said, it was a lurch? Information came on. I listened to this on Spoon and Closing Argument, and maybe on other platforms, that at the beginning of this government, the Minister for States and Presidential Affairs was able to get the Social Security to purchase vehicles. Vehicles for the government. So is that funny they having sitting somewhere just to be spent because someone want to purchase vehicle, or are they reinvesting those money? That's how we start. We need to think, because if all Liberian workers, let's say 17,000 people work for government every month, out of those 17,000, we are all contributing $2 into Social Security. And many of the people who work in Liberia, they are young people, even though our life expectancy is around 55. But most people who start working in government will be in their 20s, in their 30s. They have 20 more years to prepay that $1 per month. What are we doing with those funding? So those are conversations I believe we need to start having. Our banking subsector, are they strong enough to empower Liberians? I remember I was part of a conversation trying to start a university in Liberia. And having come from Nigeria at that time, it was easy for us to get funding from the Nigerian banks to support our institution in Nigeria. So say, let's go and try Liberian Institute. To get $1 million, Mr. Sherry, from a Liberian bank.
Man, you guys, you're trying to shut down the bank. $1 million.
To get $1 million in loan from a Liberian bank, I can tell you how much conversation we had. We had a conversation and the last loan we took in the last bank in Nigeria, but it's only million. The conversation it was a long conversation we had to have. And even when we came up to it, I think they gave over $500,000, and the payment terms, you don't have long terms loan in Liberia, 10, 15, 20 years. They want the money tomorrow. They give the money today, they want the money tomorrow. And, so
short-term loan. But
things that is emanating is a recognition of the present very difficult geopolitical context we are in. And of course, as the head of the WTO,
Let me ask you a quick question. I don't know. It's just my question I was going to ask. The echo is gone.
Okay. Viewers, we do have. We are trying today and piece of technology. Okay, viewer, again, we apologize. We are trying a new technology today, and these are the glitches we are experiencing. But we will definitely get there. As I said, as we have been saying, we are moving from StreamYard to Talk Studio. Today, we should have done it during the week, but as you know, many of us get busy. So we started testing, and we're just going through the phase with you. we apologize for the glitches. We definitely get it. Our producer, Dr. Positive, was trying to play the video from Ungoti Nkonjo Iweala, Dr. Ungoti, who is the Director General of the World Trade Organization. Formerly, she was the head of the World Bank before she went to the WTO. So one of our smartest, extremely smart economic Liberian continent. I have been privileged to have met her twice. So, but she's one of our smart person. In fact, we are from the same alma mater. I can be proud of that one. Mr. Sherry.
Well, yeah, let me go back to the illustration I was going to make. The point I'm trying to make here, Dr. George, I think you alluded to it. We're going to come back now. Now is not the time for us to start strategizing, because when you start to strategize now, like this is something you've said too many times on this platform. Serious countries, they actually try to, put some guardrails in place to protect them. Like say, for example, in this country, we have some plans that that were put in place by let's say the Obama administration, the fresh Trump administration, and those plans sometimes they're shooting for 2030, 2040, 2050. They make these plans and they shoot for it. They set these long-term goals, and so by the time they get there, they are not guessing and say, "Look, we need to start working towards this." They're already prepared for it, and right now, I don't want to get into the strategy place here. I just want to get to this question. My question to you is this, or my assertion here is this: when someone is giving you something, man, it encourages that person if they can see return on investment. It encourages that person if they can see something back that show, man, I gave Mr. George $50, and man, he has actually turned that $50 into this tangible goods and service that is so effective. I can see how it improved the lives of 4 other people around him. But if someone is investing that much money and they don't see the investment, they don't see the return on investment, it discourages you. And I think that is where most of the people, at least the critics I have listened to in this area, most of what they are saying is, why are we wasting money? I know just recently you saw another world leader that was berated in the White House by our leader, and people are just like yelling about it. But again, all of those things, you can look at it as a frustration. Why keep dumping money somewhere that we don't see the return on that money? And so what can Liberia truly show? I don't want to deal with all of Africa, because some African countries, they can put their hand on the paper and say, look, this is what we have done. We built this many hospitals. South Africa can put their hand on paper and say we did A, B, and C. What can Liberia really show that the money towards education? I know you're giving the 18-year plan, but this money has always been there. What can we put our hand on and say, look, in the health sector, this is what we did? Don't tell me about the infrastructure that was built during the Ebola, because it did not come from our funding. And in education, this is what we have done. In the agricultural sector, this is what we have done. What can we really show to be a justifiable reason why that funding should continue?
Yeah, Mr. Sherry, I will say from this perspective, I don't talk it most of the time, so I will say it today. I hope I don't say it again. At a particular point in my life, I had the opportunity of being the chairman of the international organizations in Liberia, the Lingo Forum. And I remember when President Sirleaf gave her State of the Nation address, she attacked us. She said she couldn't see anything we were doing in the country as a non-profit organization. In that same speech, the next day of the speech, so while driving, I got a call from the BBC. And when you're in those kind of role, you're not a politician, but you have to be. So I did not say the president was wrong, nor did I say she was right. I've just informed BBC that we have 60 members, and our 60 members are working through all Liberia. So the very next year, when President Burkhardt was the vice president, we decided to have the first Lingo Forum, the first Lingo trade fair. In fact, perhaps it was the first state fair in Liberia. I don't know if they have it before, the first fair. We went over to the Centennial Pavilion. We brought our 60 members, and we brought goods. I think after that year, the Ministry of Agriculture, how they call it, the agriculture, how they call it, Food and Agriculture Organization, with our friend, what her name, Telman there. They did it the following year with agricultural products. When we had that, President Burka was amazed as to how much work we were doing in Liberia, especially in the era of Gary. There are Gary processors in Liberia. But the process is that it's going to take us, someone said it on one of these shows, it's going to take us a few years to change our mindset from rice, change the mindset from rice as a staple food. But there are many people in Liberia who are processing farina, as we say in Liberia, who are processing farina. And there are many areas in Liberia, people who have that. Even rice. If the school feeding program in Liberia with wheat on meal, about 60%, Mr. Sheriff, of the food that meals on, it's a meals on wheat. Who I get the name? No, meals on wheat is the American one.
That's the American one, yeah.
I think Meals or something. It was an NGO. Like a good friend of mine was the country director based in based in Bombing County. 50%, between 50 to 60% of the food that they were using for food feeding in Liberia was coming from farmers. Coming from Liberian farmers. But the unfortunate thing in Liberia, only 3 counties, I say again, 3 counties in Liberia supply us with about 60 to 70% of our food. Bon County, Lofa County, and Nima County. Those 3. Unfortunately, in Nima, in Lofa County, there is a village. I keep missing the name wrong, so if you're from Lofa County, forget me. I think Kamatown or something. There's a village that produces a lot of rice. But the unfortunate thing, Mr. Sherry, is the next thing we struggle with is the farm to market assets. So I remember there was a year that we were giving funds to go and purchase rice. These farmers told us they had rice, but we couldn't get our vehicle to go there because the road was terrible. We could not sell and purchase rice from them. So what I'm saying is that there are projects, but we don't see them. We don't publicize. It's not public. But can we do more? And that's why I said our friends in Rwanda, they are far ahead of us in Liberia. The reason is that in Rwanda, a director is behind his decks. When you tell the Rwandan government you are doing this project, that director is going to follow that project to the end to make sure the Rwandan people have the values for the dollars that you gave them. But that is not the same in Liberia. I think at the end of the year, every one of us who ran NGOs in Liberia, we send our yearly report to the minister, the assistant minister of planning. He pick up the yearly report and put it in the president annual report. Whether they see it or they don't see it, how they call it. But yes, even let's take and I will put his name. Please forgive me, God, call your name here. But you are a brother. You have done a great work in our educational area. Even in the education sector, the books after the war, most of the books. There is a brother by the name of Chokon Wayne who was working on most of those things with an NGO in of Mama Point. So the curriculum, the rewriting of the curriculum, all those things, funds were put into them. Do we see them now? Yeah, we see them, but we may not be appreciating because before the war, we bought books. I don't know when your education, how far before the war you had your education, but before the war, I can literally remember every time when the school section we go on the Ministry of Education, we have our book list from the school, we go on the Ministry of Education, purchase.
That's right. I remember, sir. I remember.
and go back to school. But the second part of it, again, that's why I said there should be someone following this. Yeah, Russell Pro you can call. There should be someone processing it. Because the second part of it, you find out that when these books are printed out and given to school free, Mr. Sherry, that's how terrible we are as Liberia. When they are given to school free, you can go back to that Ministry of Education place. I don't know if it's still running, so I may be wrong. You go back, you will see the big thing written in the book for USAID not to be sold. Those books will be on the market being sold.
Yeah. So, but no. So let's come to the point of it. You know,
we got a caller. Okay. Before you go in, Sheriff. Yeah. Riverside Pro, go ahead.
Hello guys, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, guys, thank you very much for the show. Great topic. I just want to make some few points. I think this whole USAID suspension is more of a Trump brother anti-immigration policy. It's not meant to quote unquote save America money as it's being claimed. Trump realized that most of the recipients of the aid are third world country, Africa. And when I see a lot of these listings, they talk about Morocco, they talk about Palestine, they talk about Nigeria and all those countries, the name. So it's just that look, this whole thing was funded around it. I mean, established around the 1960s. They've been providing a lot of services. I just found out that they do landmine clearing and other things. All of a sudden, I mean, they spending money. Look here in the United States. We told you we don't have Medicaid fraud. They got Medicaid fraud. They got food stamp fraud. All these government assistance fraud in this country. Why you think they don't solve? I never saw food stamp being suspended one day since I've been in America. I never saw Medicaid being suspended because they know that it will have a backlash politically on their on their political future and in their country. Take black people out of food stamp, Medicare, and see what happens. Take veterans out of Medicare. But they know that when they're doing it to the outside world, it does not, there's no impact. I went to work and I found a lot of Americans, African Americans, they don't even know about the whole USAID thing, spending money outside. They don't even know. And moreover, this whole thing that, USAID, the government is using, government being using USAID to which one? Look, Brother Augustine and Brother George, that's how America have run their covert operation. We told you they don't know about it. I was looking at the CIA operation in Afghanistan, how they deliver those finger missiles. Those peaceful people that we had in Liberia, who told you they were real peaceful. All those humanitarian people, those are CIA. That's how they spy on country, and they go through these intermediaries, like you say, and other things. All those guys know about it, but Trump just came and he just tried to throw that racial or that immigration thing to it. All of a sudden, they start destroying it. That's how United States ran their operation. They go through NGO, they send spies. I've been watching a lot of documentaries recently. They use those means. It's not new. But all of a sudden, it's a big bombshell. Or they say, they use it in Nigeria to overthrow. That's how the people have always done. So I think this whole thing, my point is, and then lastly, guys, when Brother Costa is talking about strategizing, let's remember this thing is an executive order. Executive orders are not constitutional. They can be struck down or reversed. So when you say strategizing, you find a way. After 4 years of a Democrat get it, trust me, they're putting that thing right back. So then where does it leave your strategy? You plan it, the next thing, boom. They say, it's back. So, it's a predicament that we face, even though I understand we cannot be heavily reliant on it. But to strategize such things like that is hard because the decision was abrupt, it was unexpected, and, so much things. So that's just my point, guy. Thank you very much for having me. I will be following the show. You are doing a great job. Have a great Sunday.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Pro, Mr. Riverside Pro. Thank you for your viewpoints and thank you. But I want to start from the the points that he's making. I want to start from the bottom to the top. Again, when I say strategize, I'm just at this particular point, it's my way of saying let's hold our leaders accountable for what they should have done that they have not done in the past. Now, if someone is giving you something, you don't rely on that. Now, even in this country, when he's talking about it, there are people who maybe they might be on Social Security, but that may not be enough to actually take care of that. Social Security, you still have to go to work sometime and try to supplement. That's why they call it a supplemental income. And so when you have a government giving you foreign aid, you as a government, you don't sit and just put your hand between your leg and say, that money is going to come. That's how people live paycheck to paycheck. That's a mindset. I think, Dr. George, I hope you're following my rationale here. That's how you live paycheck to paycheck because you're always thinking, next week, I'm going to get paid. Next week, I'm going to get paid. And then when you get fired in the middle of the week now, you can't pay your rent, you can't pay this, and now you start to reach out to people and start begging, they come and pull me out of my house. I need to pay my rent or I'm going to get kicked out. That's exactly what just happened to us. We were living paycheck to paycheck, paycheck to paycheck, paycheck to paycheck. We are not saving anything. We are not strategizing to say, look, even though this money is coming, but it can get caught off at any time, this is something we need to do to help ourselves. We never did so. And now when the donor decided and said, look, I am removing my donation. Now you all caught up, and now you're walking around like chicken with no head because you have no plan whatsoever. And that is the strategy I'm talking about. Save your nation, save your country, do something for your country. Don't depend on someone else to run your government. Then you are not a government. You are not a government if you're going to rely on someone else to help you run your affairs.
And Mr. Sherry, you're right. You know, the Christian Bible have this wonderful passage. Forgive me if you don't how to call it, but it has this passage. I can read it from the Quran too. It says that there are many those. I think it was a gentleman in Paul was speaking or writing this. He said there are many doors that are open ahead of me, but there are a lot of adversities, and it is in those adversities you see your opportunities. So I totally agree with you, Mr. Sheriff, and I want to go for my brother River said we have to strategize. I mean, if our in the Ministry of Education sitting there right now and we're having this meeting, full school feeding is going. Now, can we feed our students? Maybe we can, the way our rice is, we cannot purchase a lot of rice from overseas. But this is the opportunity now for us to say, perhaps we now start introduce cassava, plantain, yam into the school diet. Because majority of us were born and we grew up with a taste bud for rice. So we believe that those other food don't work, but they work. And you know, in countries that Nigeria live on, in Ghana there is fufu, in Cote d'Ivoire there is futu. So can we now start thinking in that direction, saying, okay, let's start introducing cassava, introducing yam, introducing plantain, introducing other food into. We have to think about that. Two, it's $51 million. When we wait for 4 years to get a $51 million, say, oh, in 4 years, no, $51 million is off the budget. So we now have to start thinking within ourselves. First of all, we need to go to our national legislature. You people are the representative of the people. We need to cut your salary to $1,500 a month because this is austerity measure. We need to sit with our president and say, boss man, we know you president, but you got to start riding and charter flight. And you know, maybe you can ride economic plus class. I know if someone listening to me and say, no, the president should wear first class, but we've been seeing videos on president with the people. So when you don't have the means, you can do that. Then during the Civil War, there was a lot of new food that were introduced to our diet. I have never heard in my life until the Liberian Civil War that there was something called Baba John that you could eat. Many of you who are here remember that when the war was going on, people found that food and they ate it called Baba John. In fact, I don't even know what Baba John is up to today.
I only know Bokawee. I don't know anything about yeah. I know Bokawee. I know Gary Yoko.
Exactly. Then there was the introduction. Good Bokawee. How many of us have Bokawee in our meal before the war? But when the fighting started and self was particle, in fact, we invented different ways to eat the Bokawee. When that Bokawee were given to us, some of us we mash it and turn it into
rice.
We turn it into rice. We cook it with other things to have it. We invented during that time, and this time too, we can do this. We can do this as Liberians. The only challenge in our country is that if we who are at a lower class are making sacrifices, those who are our political elite have to be seen making a sacrifice along with us. And we can definitely lift up our people when we all work together to make this sacrifice. When Charles Taylor was president, there was some tough time. I remember when Banga was captured and Taylor said we are going back to retake. He was able to galvanize his people. I'm not saying that Taylor was a good president or not. I'm just talking about the charisma he had to galvanize us as Liberians to do things that we did not want to do. That is what we should be looking for in leaders right now. I'm not saying that Taylor should be our leader. I'm saying that charisma to galvanize us as a country, as a people. That's what leaders should be sitting thinking about. How do I get this money back? What can I think about? What new we should think about? And is this an opportunity? Yes. River says, I think it's time for us to start saying, oh, we can no longer depend on the United States of America. After all, this is not the first time, Mr. Sheriff. This is not the first time. You know, when the Civil War in Liberia started, many people felt that the U.S. was going to come to our aid. But the U.S. was interested in the war that was taking place in Iraq. and they did not come to our aid in Liberia for about 2-3 years.
Yeah, and the reason, Dr. George, one of the reasons I didn't want to dwell too much on the first point that our caller made was because I don't want this to be about what this foreign government did or what the foreign government is doing. I want it to be about us. What can we do to help our people? Because we can go into the Medicaid thing that our caller was talking about. Just this gone week, I think it was midweek by Wednesday of last week. We know that another 2 deals were made this last week. One was cutting Medicare by $880 billion for the next 10 years, over 10 years. So there have been cuts that have been made there. And and states will start to feel the pinch now. But again, we don't want to make this about what this government does. I want it to be about our government, our people. What can we do to make sure that the effect of whatever paycheck that we were accepting, that paycheck is now removed? What can we do to live on our own personal income that we're making? Our own personal income that we're making. What adjustment can we make? The same way they are making cuts here do you know how many federal employees have been laid off here in this country? There are a lot of people that have been laid off or forced to resign. So I don't want to make it about this government. Our own people now, our Liberian people, our Liberian government, they need to now start making these sacrifices. They need to look at where they can cut. Do we need all these employees in government? Do we need 50,000 people working in one, I don't know, 10,000 people in one ministry? No. Maybe we don't need all those people. Maybe we need to cut some of them. Do we need all these ghosts on the payroll that are not doing any job at all? Maybe we need to that's the strategy I'm talking about. We need to look at our payroll and say, how many of these people do we really need on this payroll? How many of these lawmakers really deserve to make $15,000, $10,000 a month? We need to make an adjustment. That's the adjustment. That's the strategy I'm talking about.
You see, you make a very strong point, Mr. Sheriff. And again, nobody should get very oil, my brother. We're trying to find a solution to the issue here. When you go to government ministries, you have one person who pick out a fire, he carrying it around for people to sign. But I don't say move food on that man's table. We can train him into doing something else. But those are ways that we as people can strategize and work towards our country. So, ladies and gentlemen, our time is fast spent. We've been very excited being in your home this evening, Mr. Sheriff and I. Those of you who are watching us on YouTube and Facebook, thank you so much for the opportunity and time. What we've been talking about, the United States Agency for International Development, putting out funding from Liberia, about $51 million, as was alluded to by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Augustine Gafwan. Ladies and gentlemen, Liberians are smart people. We are unique people. We're doing great things around the world. It is time for us to all sit down and think. You cannot always depend on another person to make you happy and excited and live the life you want to live. There are times you have to tighten your seatbelt and decide that this is the life I want to build. I have to make sacrifices for that life. We should not be downhearted because someone decided that they're going to remove their $51 million from us. This is our opportunity to think as a people. This is our opportunity to move from rice to cassava or plantain or acheke or another form of food. This is the opportunity for our government ministers and our friends in the legislature to show that they really love us. And we voted for them, 20,000 of us, 2,000, 4,000, 5,000 of us voted for them in our various districts. We voted for them to represent our interests. And right now, all these projects, whether it's LEAD, whether it is the healthcare, whether it's medical management, needs $51 million. Our government should be able, our leaders should be able to make that sacrifice. Mr. President, it's great for you riding private jet. It's awesome. It takes you where you want to go fast and bring you back home fast. But rethink that goal. With this situation we have, can you be the first line of sacrifice? Do we need to have 15, 20 cars in the presidential convoy? When I was young growing up, I know the presidential convoy was always there, but if I asked President how only 2 cars. In fact, he had only two motorbikes in front of him and his own car, and maybe one in front, one behind. You didn't have these long convoys. I had friends who were senators during the Doe administration. You better know that they were, because they drove with all no sound of sirens or several cars around them. All those vehicles cost money, and we are paying that for those money. Your cell phone communication, do you have to make all those kind of communications every month? Let's all rethink about it. Because if Liberia is to be a great nation, is to rise again, this is our opportunity for us to make the money that we have work for the Liberian people. Until we meet again on another time of Uncover, my name is Emmanuel George, and I've been excited being in your home. Have a good evening. Okay, boss man. I think it's not as sweet as stream yet, but we'll get to know how it works.
Stephen, are we still?
No, we off.
Okay.
The screen and
Hey, Steve, I apologize, but basically, one of the things I learned in my high school journalism is the whole concept that airtime is money. So when we sitting there and the video is buffering and our people can't even hear it, I would just jump in and just keep the conversation going, because too much mute time on the air, even on stream, I would just skip those kind of video. I would not even waste my time on it. So,
but you came in at that time the video was playing. That one wasn't buffering though. That particular video was playing. That the judge was listening. I was listening, but you came from the background.
I couldn't hear it. I couldn't hear it. And even the second time when you try playing it and we're sitting there, the thing was just going circle, it didn't play.
No, again, that's why I ended that one. But that the first one was actually playing. But I get what you're saying. This is our first time using this personally, but I always had a problem with my StreamYard working with video. Even StreamYard I have video buffering. So I know there's a problem with my internet speed. So this year, eventually, I'm going to upgrade once I make those adjustments. And I'll be able to upgrade to have a better video. But in the interim too, I would just add, if you have any option to set up a second screen, that will help as well, because I don't know what audio video, what internet service you guys have. If it's better than what I have, then that can help us to play the videos that we do, because all I do is just share the screen and then enable audio on the video. But for some reason, with my new internet service, I haven't really been able to play any video, except we download a video and upload it to StreamYard.
And why is it keeps saying in stream? I already ended this stream. I feel like we still live. Why does it keep saying in stream? Because it said live and recording.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you click the end button, right?
Yeah, I clicked the end button and played it out.
End again, let's see.
Let me end again. So